Okay, we should be live. Can't hear myself. Oh, this is the wrong. It's the wrong live stream. Okay, this is the one. So I'm trying to sort out how this going live works. My studio. Yeah, that's the correct one. Right, so that should be working. I was trying to do the posting about it before I actually go live, but that doesn't work. So apologies for that. To actually do it once I go live already, so eventually you have to go and cut those bits, which I can do, but takes too long. Can still hear myself. Yes, I can. There's about 2-second delay, 3-second maybe. Let's jump straight into it. Normally doing what's it, unit testing, a bit of a manual testing. Yeah, so the game works okay. We changed the colors, made the line there thicker. Hopefully I can see it better. It's not optimized for a mobile screen, unfortunately. I mean, you can use it. The waveform is not fully displayed on the screen. Did you just see errors? There were not just notifications and things. What are the actual errors? No, it's working fine. Then we have this wavelet. Why there's no? This should be the title of the app. So it's image compression using the script wavelet transform. So that should be working okay. It's loading pretty quickly. Yeah, on the phone it will be cut off like this to make them smaller or something. So I need to cough. Sorry for that. Right, so generally, anyway, we'll check it how it works on the phone at another time. Mainly just trying to get all the apps back up and running. We have this one's loading forever. I don't know why. It's just meant to show you different types of noise. It's brought to you by Vista Print. If you want to print a t-shirt with a custom logo, go to Vista Print. No, that was just a random ad on Google ad. Sorry for the ads. Yes, there will be later an option of using the website with no advertisement, but you'll have to wait for me to first finish making them. So let's see what else we've got. So we're working on this one currently. So this one's still offline. And let's find IEG2. We have this Python code. It's a Flask application. Can run it from here, and that's what it will eventually look like. Why is it loading forever? Yes, it will be the logo and the usual stuff there, and then you'll be able to scroll through EEG like this. This particular example has a seizure in it, starting probably that left of 5 or right of 5. It's a bit odd that they're both of 5 and have kind of not similar. No, it's not similar. No, it should be legit. It's 16 channel EG, intracranial. There should be description there saying where the data is from. Might as well add it now because it's important. This plot HTML, and we need this description in it, which we already should have in this readme file. No, do we have it? Is this Python prompts? Should be an info file. And that's how I deploy it. Generate the code, the folder structure. That's more something that's of interest. Yes, and it's from NeuroVista intracranial EEG, and the data is available on IEEG.org. And we do want to turn, probably could use, so trying the same thing. Yeah, this is the title of today's video: Biomedical Data Web Application Development. We're using Numpy, Pandas, Scipy, Plotly, Flask, obviously GPT. This is 4 and Python. So just also side thingy, we are comparing advanced data analysis, which used to be called the code interpreter, to standard GPT-4 and GPT 3.5, if you are interested in that. So obviously the 3.5 is faster, cheaper, kind of no frills. It's generating good stuff, so might as well ask it to, where did we had that text? This text we want to turn into HTML. Let's first just see what it says. It's generating code straight away. It's interesting. I didn't think it will do that. Yeah, it's very similar to what we have. Let me check. We do have an info. No, that's a different info from compression. So for that we need the copy of this thing. Just some organizational things. Want it in there. One pretty much same structure. I think we have the files actually called different things. Those are prompts. Oh, come on. Yeah, we have slightly different file structure to it. This is normally a sentence based because sometimes GPT refuses to generate the whole code. turn this text into HTML. So yes, it should be able to deal with a simple task. Is this coming soon from? Okay. Okay. Now we don't need that in the info. The info should be just this. And we turn it into HTML. What's that code? It's a bit odd. Option default off. So pop this in the body, the HTML. Still loading for some time, this one. All right, so we have this description, we have the data source. So why is that off like that? Don't really need the okay, we'll leave it for now. Now this thing, it's actually doing something. When you touch the button, keeps but it's not actually using the value. Just when you keep scrolling it, it keeps doing that. So we can try and fix it. Separation value. It's the label input ID. That's its ID. Double quotes. We should have it in. Save that. Can remove. Don't save. Sorry, that was actually the correct info file. Oops. Just got rid of a whole lot of stuff. No, that's correct. So it's managing this project is a bit of a pain. And this one is in single quotes. So watching for that import change. Yeah, I want this to be just copy that for a sec. We want this to be change as well. So only when we operation value just keeps increasing. Yeah, this is wrong. Yes, we just had the template code that GPT made for us. We have to change it, improve on it. Let's see. So let's use, let's use GPT-4 for a change. So we have this. I want to focus on separation value and overlay options. Put this in. Let it talk.
The JavaScript code you've shared fetches data from a Flask endpoint to display a polygraph. The script includes a feature that allows you to change the separation between channel waveforms, indicated by update separation, and to update the overlay options for the graph, indicated by update overlay. Let's focus on the parts related to separation value and overlay options. In this function, you're adjusting the Y values of each trace based on a separation value specified in an input field, sepValue. This separates each trace vertically by a constant value, making it easier to distinguish between different traces. Changes the vertical separation of traces in the plot based on a user-specified separation value. Update overlay adjusts the visual characteristics of the traces in the plot based on user-selected overlay options. Both functions offer ways to interactively alter the graph's presentation without modifying the underlying data. This improves the user's ability to interpret the displayed information. The JavaScript code you've shared fetches data from a Flask endpoint to display a polygraph. The script includes a feature that allows you to change the separation between channel waveforms, indicated by update separation, and to update the overlay options for the graph, indicated by update overlay. In this function, you're adjusting the Y values of each trace based on a separation value specified in an input field, sepValue. This separates each trace vertically by a constant value, making it easier to distinguish between different traces.
This Y value plus index. Trace based on separation value specified input field sep value. This separates each trace vertically by constant value. The main problem The separation value should be controlled by the scroller input variable and should have a range between 0 to say 100.
If you want to control the separation value using an HTML scroller input with a range of 0 to 100, you can add an input element of type range to your HTML. This will let users adjust the
already have
separation
it.
between channel waveforms interactively. Here's how you can add it to your HTML. In your JavaScript, you already have an event listener attached to sepValue, which triggers the update separation function when its value changes. The update separation function you already have seems to be designed for this purpose. It fetches the current value of the scroller input and updates.
So we have this HTML. The separation should be controlled by the scroller. Have a range between 0 and 100. Currently it's working correctly. Just generate this thing. Is I feeling as I
Based on the
generate this
HTML
thing?
and JavaScript you provided, you've set up a web page that includes a plotly graph along with controls to modify the overlay options and separation value. Specifically, you have an input element of type range with id sepValue which allows users to adjust the separation value between 0 and 100. The JavaScript function update separation listens for changes to this input field to update the vertical separation between the traces on the plotly graph. When the separation value is changed, the function updates the y values of each trace to create the vertical separation. Everything appears to be well configured based on the code you provided. To confirm that everything works as expected, you would typically need to serve this HTML through your Flask app, making sure that your Flask backend has an endpoint, get_plot_data that sends the correct JSON structure to feed into Plotly.
Okay, it's not working correctly. How do we display the actual separation value on the right of the scroller input? So I want to actually display a number there because I'm pretty sure it is not working correctly. Now it stopped working at all. Check F12. A network. It's not sending something. It's changing stuff.
You can display the actual separation value by adding an HTML element next to the range input and then updating that element's text whenever the range input changes. Here's how you can do it. Add a less than span greater than element next to your range input to display the separation value. Modify the update separation function to also update this less than span greater than element when the separation value changes. You already have an event listener for the range input. Make sure update separation is called when the input changes. Now, whenever you adjust the separation value using the range input, the value should also be displayed next to the input in the less than span 8 equals sepValue display greater than element.
Again, HTML label separation. Oops, so I assume that should be over here somewhere. Format document. See if that appeared. Oh, it's loading forever as well. That number is not updating. Right, we obviously don't need that twice. In JavaScript, modified update separation. So we need a now function. Did we already have it? JavaScript separation. Separation value. Turn new trace. Okay, let's just use it. We already have an event listener, don't we? Change. That separation. Yeah, we already have that. At the bottom here. So that should be fine. Yeah, we really have to make it load faster to begin with. Why is that not right? Now it is changing. So it's between 0 and 100, but the separations that would be in JavaScript. Why is it plus index? Can you explain this to me?
The line of code new trace, y equals new trace, y.map, y equals greater than y plus index asterisk sep value, is part of the update separation function, which gets called when the separation value, sep value, changes. The purpose of this line is to update the y values of each trace in your plotly plot to add a separation between them based on the selected value of the slider, sep value. Here's how it works. New trace, y contains the original y values for one trace of your plotly graph. .map, y equals greater than y plus index asterisk sep value, goes through each y value and adds an offset to it. Backquote. Y is the original y value. Index is the index of the current trace. This ensures that each trace gets a different offset, making them separate from each other vertically. Sep value is the value that you read from the slider. So, if you have, say, 3 traces and a sep value of 10, the first trace, index 0, would have 0 added to all its y values, 010, the second trace, index 1, would have 10 added to all its y values, 110, and the third trace, index 2, would have 20 added to all its y values, 2 asterisk 10. This will create a vertical separation between traces, making it easier to distinguish between them when they are displayed on the same plot.
Yeah, that's not working correctly, is it? It's doing something, but so let's say when it's loading, it's going 0 to negative 35k, whatever that number is. Every time you change this, it's separating by something. Okay, that number. That number. What is the default separation value when changing the value in the scroller? The traces should be separated by that new number. It's currently not doing that. It's doing something weird.
The default separation value is set by the value attribute of the range input in your HTML, which is currently set to 0. If your traces are not getting separated properly, one potential issue could be that you are continuously adding the separation value to the original Y values every time the range input changes. As a result, the Y values may not correctly reflect just the current separation value. They could reflect the cumulative separation based on all the previous changes to the range input as well. To fix this, you can store the original Y values somewhere, and then apply the separation based on those original Y values. Here's a simplified example. When you first get the data, save a deep copy of it. Update the separation function to work from the original Y values. In this modified function, original data stores the original Y values, so each time the function runs, it starts from those original values and applies only the current separation value. This should fix the weird behavior and only separate the traces by the current slider value.
Okay. Let's see. So first we need the default. Should be about like whatever 10 if we're talking 0 to 100. So if it's 50 or whatever. So the default value should be 50 on the slider between 0 and 100. When you move it towards 0, the traces should be closer to one another. And when you move it towards 100, they should be separated to a larger extent. Don't need to save the original data, do we?
You'd first need to set the default value of the separation value to 50. Then, when the slider is changed, the traces should readjust based on that new separation value. First, modify your HTML input for the separation value to have a default of 50. Optionally, you can also add a span or another HTML element to display the current value of the slider. Now modify your JavaScript function that handles separation. To set the separation as soon as the data is fetched and plotted, you can call update separation after the plot is initialized. This way, it will start with the default separation of 50 and will adjust every time you move the slider. Also, make sure the original data is stored after you fetch the data, like in the previous example. You will use this to reset the Y values to their original values before applying a new separation value. By doing these steps, you'll start with a default separation value of 50. Sliding the control to 0 will make the traces come closer together, and sliding it towards 100 will separate them more. The current separation value will also be displayed next to the slider, so the user knows what it is set to.
Understand.
Sure, here's the complete code with comments to indicate the changes and updated portions.
The button's not working. Oops. Just hit escape. That apparently stops generating.
Sure, here is the updated and commented JavaScript code with the new functionality for the default separation value and scroller.
Pretty sure we already have that. Yeah, fetching data from Flask. Get rid of that.
And here is the updated HTML code with a place to display the separation value. With these changes, your web app should now initialize with a default separation value of 50. As you adjust the slider, the traces should move closer together or further apart, and the current separation value will be displayed next to the slider.
Still in fetch function, plotly. Why are we resizing here? Tells me what was added, but doesn't say what was what should be removed. So after console log, touch event listener. Date separation, and we have that as a function already, don't we? Yes, we do. Only we're calling it there, so why? Should be just change the structure entirely. Not following. Didn't I ask to generate the whole code? Let's do this again. So for JavaScript, expecting the whole code.
Certainly. Below is your fully regenerated JS JavaScript code with comments highlighting what changes were made.
What is that? Try to make this web application to review EEG data. It's not live yet. Should be live by hopefully by the end of the stream. This is how it's loading. Now we're trying to fix this two button, the overlay option and the separation value. So that's how it's loading to begin with.
With these changes, the code initializes the plot with a default separation value. The value is initially set to 50 in the HTML. It also updates the plot when you change the separation value using the slider, and it shows the current separation value next to the slider.
Right. So currently this separation value should be, it's not actually working as expected. The numbers are off as well. Yeah, it's doing something weird. Let's see, JavaScript. Yeah, we're checking if local host fetching response return, that's okay. JSON file, that's fine. Plotly initialized. Now this one. Have update separation. This plot data is not being used. Why? Resize plot, that's the same. update overlay. Yeah, we need to change those colors and things. Sorry for that. We'll do that next. We have update separation now here. So we're reading the current separation value from the scroller. That should be the same line. Yes. Updated display span. This line should be the same, yes. This haven't changed. Update, trace. Separation logic looks odd to me. Now we have this 3 event listeners, resize, overlay options, separation value. Initial. Yeah, this initial resize, I don't like the way it works, but we'll deal with that later. Right, so this changes.
With these changes, the code initializes the plot with a default separation value. The value is initially set to 50 in the HTML. It also updates the plot when you change the separation value using the slider, and it shows the current separation value next to the slider.
We haven't updated the HTML yet. So same request, plot HTML.
Certainly, here's your updated plot, HTML file.
Those numbers between 0 and 100, they also not quite correct, because the second line is the value of, they're like separated by 1,000. So this one will be around 0. The next one is minus 2,000. So this number should be in the thousands.
I've added a less than span greater than element right next to the separation value slider. This element will display the current separation value, as handled in the JavaScript code. The separation value slider's default value is set to 50, within the range of 0 to 100. All original parts of the code are intact and commented as such.
Yeah, it's actually plays the whole code as I requested, which is great, but Some of those comments are a bit annoying, some bit redundant. Current separation value, yes, that's newly added. Pretty sure I already have it there. Oops. Yeah, that's the span. It's already there, so I don't know why. Say it's newly added. That's okay. The other thing is currently the traces seem to be separated by 2000 or so. So should the numbers and the scroller and the default value of the separation should be adjusted accordingly.
If the traces are currently separated by a value like 2000, then the range and default value of the slider should indeed be adjusted to match the scale of the data. Here's how you can update the plot, HTML. The min, max, step, and value attributes are adjusted to match the scale of your data. The min is set to 0, and the max is set to 4000, with a step value of 100. The default value is set to 2000. You'll also need to adjust the JavaScript code to handle this new scale correctly, but this will make your slider match the current separation between traces.
Say again.
You'll also need to adjust the JavaScript code to handle this new scale correctly, but this will make your slider match the current separation between traces.
Right, so it should be 2000 like it is now, and then we go left. They should be closer to one another. When you go right, they should be separated by a larger number. Larger number. So that's already there. Label is the same. Now this line is different. So we're going between me. We're using the second one. Right. Did we generate the JavaScript? No. Can we pop in the JavaScript? Yes.
You've got a fairly comprehensive script for plotting and updating your data. Below are the changes to make sure the slider works with the new default and scaling. Specifically, the code now updates the separation value dynamically based on the slider's value. Comments have been added to explain any changes or additions. The script uses the value of the #sep-value slider to adjust the separation between traces. When the slider is moved, it triggers the update separation function, which updates the y values of each trace based on the slider's value. Also, a new DOM element with the ID sep-value display was added. This is where the current separation value will be displayed, updated dynamically by the update separation function.
So we have that last line already. That's fine. Plotly update. That looks the same. New return new trace from this is the same. Array is array. New array is array. Yes. Object assign. Trace plotlet div index. That's correct. That's right. Separation value. Why is it 10?
The line of code const sep value equals parseInt document get element by ID sep value value 10 is responsible for retrieving the current value of the HTML input element with the ID sep value. The value is then parsed into an integer using parseInt with base 10 indicated by.
It's base 10, so that's fine. So the app is still running. Just restart it quickly. Reload this page. This should be in the middle there. It's the value. It's the value hiding there. Right, 2000. No. I don't know what is it doing, but it's not right. Why is it there's something wrong with the logic or this equation? Pretty sure this equation is wrong. Where was it? Can you explain? In the separation. Just don't want to prime it for anything, just explain this line.
The line new trace, y equals new trace, y.map, y equals greater than y plus index asterisk sep value, is where the separation logic is applied to the y values of each trace in the plot. Here's a breakdown. New trace, y. This is the array of y values for a single trace on the plot. Y equals greater than y plus index asterisk sep value. This lambda function updates each y value, y, by adding index asterisk sep value to it. Index, the index of the current trace, starting from 0. This helps create different levels of separation for each trace. Sep value, the separation value fetched from the HTML input slider. So, if you have multiple traces and you move the separation slider, each trace will be shifted vertically based on its index and the value of sep value. This allows you to control the vertical separation between the traces directly from the web page.
These descriptions sound legit, but in reality, this is not what's happening. When changing the slider for the separation value, getting some sort of weird behavior where the separation becomes going one way, thing becoming larger and larger every time you click on the scroller.
The issue of the traces becoming larger and larger upon each adjustment of the slider likely stems from how the y values are updated. Every time the slider changes, new trace, y equals new trace, y.map, y equals greater than y plus index asterisk sep value, is adding index asterisk sep value to the already updated y values. So it's an accumulative effect. The old separation value is not being removed before the new one is added, leading to exponential growth in the separation distance. To resolve this issue, you could save the original y values of the traces and use those when calculating the new y values upon each slider change. Here's an updated version of your code that does just that. Now, every time you adjust the slider, the y values should reset to their original values before the new separation distance is applied, eliminating the accumulative effect.
Okay, where does this go? So this will be in the beginning. Storing original data. Wait, document with icon function event. Does it say rest of the code? Should be in the beginning here. Storing original data. Then we have when data, JSON data pass data. Save original data. So over here, so turn plotly plot. That's the same. Rest of the code, update separation. Update separation. This will be the same, so I'm not sure why you mention it. Should be using original data instead of here and here. We use const. That's the same. The same. Yeah, this line is different. Why is format document? Okay, that is correct. This is the same. New trace. And we're updating the plot. Okay, let's restart this page. Okay, it's loading forever. I have to sort that out. I think we're loading too much data to begin with. So why that's jumping like that? Right, so it seems to be working. Okay, it's working just in the opposite direction. That's a good start. So that's the seizures being overlaid. Oops, sorry, I meant to grab that one. So it should be essentially zero. That should be essentially like a zero number. Just to know why positive number should... because it's going into the negative direction, isn't it? And 2000 is default. Might leave it as that. Yeah, it's a bit confusing. But I think you get the picture. Yeah, it's good to see like a sanity check when you have some sort of artifact in the signal. That they actually aligned. It's just good to see. Yeah, the other thing, like this slider, when you move it like this, yes, I could make it keep changing. It's just that people keep playing with it and it's overloading my server. So this is the kind of stuff, if you want anything made custom for you, you can make this tool, and you just have the source code modified and run it on like a paid server, public cloud or wherever, because they will be able to handle more users and the like. I'm just doing a demo of this thing. Now let's move on to the second part. Ooh, it's been already an hour. I might take a break and we will sort those colors up. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, let's get back to things. Let me know if there's any questions or if you have tried the site. Still obviously work in progress. Just posted the link in the chat. Yeah, normally we're using this advanced data analysis GPT-4, but used to be called the code interpreter, but now I'm just trying the vanilla GPT-4, the default option, and it's doing pretty well. So I'm not sure what exactly the difference is. I guess the main thing is that one you can load files into, but we're doing everything locally, so we need the code to run locally. I guess it could be useful. Yeah, they're talking now about incorporating images and stuff like that. For me to actually load, if there's any errors, you could just load the print screen of the browser for it to know what's happening. But yeah, other than that, it's working fine. So we just fixed this separation thingy. It's working much better. The numbers are here a bit weird, a bit reversed. We actually can hide that number now. Let's actually do it. That's called span. Yeah, we don't need it anymore, assuming this is working correctly. We'll have to probably check it for... No, actually, let's leave that number. Yeah, no. Why? We should leave it. Can't really explain it. Don't have words for it. But essentially, the thing is that originally, when we load the page, the original separation, we assume it's 2000, but it could be something else as well. So when loading the page, yes, currently this channel 1 left or 1 is around 0. The next one, no, that's time, sorry, value. So that's 1 to 30. The next one minus almost 2000. This is minus almost 4000, and so on and so forth. But these numbers are I think it's the peak. It's this number here. So that, by the way, that signal is clipping over there. It's so that the numbers do not overlap. Anyway, this will need more work because we want this separation number to be dynamic. So when we do this, yeah, we can do double click. Yeah, there's the clipping there. Yeah, you can hide one channel by clicking on it once, or you can just view that one channel but by double clicking on it. It's behaving in a bit weird way, but it's doing the job. So you can scroll for the thing. Yeah, there's this weird edge effects where it's gonna get to stretch the thing. It's kinda to be expected, I guess. Anyway, this is working pretty well. Now, next thing, hopefully in half an hour, if up between 30 to 60 minutes, should be able to sort this one, overlay options. A separation value is working okay. Now let's move on to overlay options. A off default is working fine. The different colors are okay. When selecting grouped by side, we expect the colors to remain the same and the separation, we expect essentially two groups of waveforms to be overlaid on top of one another. So essentially no separation and two groups left, O1 to O8, and right channels O1 to O8 to be viewed separately.
To implement the group by side overlay option where left and right channels are grouped together but separated from each other, you'll have to modify the update overlay and update separation functions to conditionally apply the separation logic. In your existing update overlay function, you can set up an additional variable that will determine whether to apply group by side separation logic. Then, in the update separation function, you can use this variable to either apply your usual separation logic or the new group by side logic. Here's how you can modify your existing code to achieve this.
Can we also
In this
make
modified
sure
code, when you select group by side, in the dropdown, group by side is set to true. Then, in the update separation function, this variable is checked to apply the appropriate separation logic. Feel free to adjust the hard-coded separation value 10,000 to something that suits your needs better.
I'm really not sure about the separation value of 10,000. That's outside the current range. Also, can we make sure the original colors remain the same? They were okay. We essentially want the left colors to have 8 different colors in the range and right colors to have 8 different colors in the range. When the separation overlay option is chosen to be grouped by side, we want the left and right to be overlaid on top of one another. So two groups of channels to be displayed. This button, I can't turn off the mic because, yeah, now I can.
Certainly,
Oh,
you
no.
can preserve the original colors while implementing the group by side feature. Also, instead of a hard-coded separation value like 10,000, we can actually use a variable similar to sep value to control the separation between the two groups, left and right. Here's a modified version of your code to address your new requirements.
So it's setting a new variable group by state. Why does it need a new variable? Why do we need a new variable group by state? Why can't we use the value taken from the overlay option selection drop-down window?
In this version, I added an original colors array that will store the initial color of each trace right after the plotly plot is initialized. This way, you can always revert back to the original colors when you choose the group by side or default overlay option. I also adjusted the separation logic in update separation to apply a separation based on the channel group, either left or right, when group by side is true. The separation value is the same as sep value for simplicity.
with the colors, can we have the traces in 8 different colors and have the first 8 traces colors repeat the second 8 traces of colors? I'm not sure if it understood.
Certainly, using the value taken directly from the dropdown for group by side is a valid approach too. I had used a separate variable for state management, but it's not strictly necessary. You can directly use the value from the dropdown. For the colors, if you want the first 8 traces to have unique colors and the second 8 traces to repeat those same colors, you can set this up when you initially create your data array for Plotly. Here are the modifications to the code.
Right, so we should have 8 colors there. Let's copy this JavaScript because we're gonna mess things up. Gonna get messy potentially.
In this modified code, I used a colors array to define the 8 unique colors for the first 8 traces. Then, I simply duplicated these colors for the next 8 traces. I also adjusted the update overlay function to change colors based on the dropdown directly.
Right, we'll have those 8 colors. Then we have update overlay. It's the same. Grouped. Yeah, we don't want dash. Comment that out. This thing should be dead. Can comment this. Overlay all. No, I want the line colors to remain the same. Will just remain the same. Line opacity. Right. That's separation. Selection option. Selected option. Do we have it already? Update overlay. Update separation. Okay, come on. What's up with that? Grouped. Why is What's up with that? Why are we getting it again? If plot div. What? Don't get it. What are we doing there? New trace. Date separation. Don't get it. We have the previous things saved, so can you generate the whole thing? I'm
Certainly,
struggling
I'll
to
regenerate the
integrate.
entire JS code with the required updates and comments. In this code, I've integrated the logic for the color updates and the new logic for grouping the channels by side, grouped or not, based on the selected overlay option from the dropdown. I've also commented on the new additions or modifications to make it clear.
Yeah. Doesn't look like the original code. Did you remove let original data?
My apologies for the oversight. If let original data is part of the original code and is being used for some purpose, then it should be retained. Here's a corrected version of the code with let original data included.
You should just edit now. It's meant to be outside the function. Are you actually using it?
The let original data line is now included, as well as its population, assuming you populate original data right after you fetch the data. Feel free to adjust according to your needs.
No, that's not how it's being used. What? Don't know why it's
Certainly, your updated code includes improvements like storing a deep copy of the original data to avoid manipulation issues later. You've also refined the update overlay function to handle new coloration for grouped overlay options. I've noted that you moved the line for defining colors, const colors equals, red, green, blue, orange, purple, pink, brown, gray, winking face, to the section inside the, then, function. Semicolon dot. If you intend to use the colors array in other parts of the code outside of this promise, you might want to declare it at a higher scope. But if it's only used within the promise chain, then it should be okay. Also, the separation logic now uses the original data, to apply the y-axis adjustments. This would solve the problem where every interaction with the slider was compounding the effect because the function was continually adjusting the already adjusted data. Overall, the adjustments look sound and seem to cater to your specific requirements. Would you like further adjustments or clarifications on any part of the code?
The overlay options selection doesn't act as expected. Off default seem to be okay, but when selecting grouped by side, nothing really happens. Also, can we make sure the original 8 colors are maintained throughout?
Sure, let's address those concerns one by one. Group by side not working. You're using a single plotly update function to handle all overlay options, but your code for the group by side option doesn't provide any logic to actually group the traces by side. You only update the colors there. Maintain original colors. To maintain the original colors of each trace, you'd want to keep a deep copy of the original data, as you've already done with the variable original data. Here's the code with the changes. In the function update overlay, you can implement logic under selected option group to actually group the traces by side or any other criterion. Hope this helps. Would you like to dig deeper into any of these changes?
Yes. Yes, how would you suggest implementing the grouping logic?
Certainly. The grouping logic can be implemented based on your specific requirements for the EG data. Let's assume that you have 16 traces and you want the first 8 traces to represent the left side and the next 8 traces to represent the right side. Here's how you could adapt the update separation and update overlay functions. In update overlay, you set the colors based on the groupings. For example, the first 8 traces could have one set of colors and the next 8 traces another set. In update separation, if the overlay option is set to grouped, you could add an offset only to the first group, essentially overlaying the two groups but keeping them separated from each other. Here's the modified code. In this example, I added an offset of 80,000 to the right side traces when the grouped option is selected. You can adjust this value according to your needs. This way, when you select the group option, the left and right traces would be colored differently and the right side will have an additional offset, thus grouping them visibly apart. Feel free to adjust these numbers and logic to fit your exact requirements. The line offset equals index greater than equals 8. 80,000 to 0 is using the ternary conditional operator to quickly evaluate a condition. Specifically, it checks if the trace index is greater than or equal to 8. If it is, it sets offset to 80,000, otherwise, it sets offset to 0. In the context of your EG plot with 16 traces, this assumes that the first 8 traces, index 0 to 7, correspond to the left side and the next 8 traces, index 8 to 15, correspond to the right side. If the traces for the right side, index greater than equals 8, the offset of 80,000 will be added